The year the barbarians broke through the pass, I abandoned my wife and daughters to save my white moonlight. Yu Qingyan took the 2 children and fled all the way from Yuzhou, crossing countless obstacles before finally returning to the peaceful Shengjing. By then, she was no longer the haughty young lady she once was. Tanned dark, hands and feet cracked like a village girl. After I died, for some reason, I didn't reincarnate but became a spirit, only able to follow her. Her expression was too calm. I instinctively didn't dare look again. I turned instead to look at my younger daughter's blank face, and some guilt surfaced in my heart. If I hadn't abandoned her, she wouldn't have lost her wits from the scene of the barbarians killing people. But a life was at stake. If I hadn't gone to save her, Ji Ruyuan might have died. I comforted myself. It is just temporary hysteria. Once we settle down, it can be cured. Compared to Ji Ruyuan's life, this is nothing. She was someone I owed from my youth. Yu Qingyan and I both wronged her. We have to atone to her. What I didn't expect was that Yu Qingyan didn't return to the original mansion. Such a delicate person like her instead settled down in a mountain villa far from the capital, hiring a large group of servants. Half a month passed in a flash. She led the servants to plant trees outside the walls and scatter various grass seeds. The 2 children were left at home, and apart from eating together, she didn't spare them a single extra glance. I was getting anxious and loudly questioned her. Why haven't you called a physician for our daughter? But no matter how much I screamed my throat raw, she couldn't hear me. Just kept her head down digging. Ghosts get tired too. I was completely drained sitting beside her and said resentfully, "What kind of mother are you? Ruyan treats the 2 children better than you." Thinking of Ruyan, my heart ached a little. When I rushed to save her back then, she was surrounded by a group of barbarians in the courtyard. Already scared half to death. It was me who desperately blocked the pursuers and carved out a bloody path for her, so she could escape. I don't know if those people caught up with her in the end. The more I thought about it, the sadder I got. I couldn't help but complain. Before you left the city, you didn't even check if Ruyan made it back safely. But this woman couldn't hear me. She'd always been like this, utterly cold toward Ruyan. She just remained expressionless and planted another tree. Half a month passed, she finally finished planting the trees, but then started running outside again. Cart after cart, transporting grain here. I got anxious. Are you really planning to settle down here? What about Juar's hysteria, and Zheng'er? He still needs to study for the imperial exams. How can he go to school here? Though she'd acted strange before, she'd never been this unreliable. In a flash, it suddenly occurred to me. Maybe she was doing this to get back at me. In the past, she'd never been very close to the 2 children. This time I chose to save Ruyan and left her to fend for herself. Maybe she wanted to deliberately ruin the children to take revenge on me. My heart turned ice cold, and I murmured, "But I am already dead. The children only have you now." But she couldn't hear anything. For the first time, I felt utterly powerless. In the blink of an eye, over a month passed, and amidst my anxious anticipation, she finally finished her business and returned to the villa to see the children. Zheng'er sat cautiously in the courtyard watching her, tentatively asking, "Mother, little sister is asleep. Can I go out and play for a while?" She only glanced at Zheng'er, then coldly shook her head. "No, you have to stay and watch your sister." The little child, only 7 years old, pouted aggrievedly, but didn't dare say anything. My heart ached like it was being pricked by needles. Even knowing she couldn't hear me, I still couldn't help but say, "The child hasn't done anything wrong. Why must you treat him like this?" After looking at Zheng'er, she went to look at the sleeping Juer. I stood beside Yu Qingyan, my gaze involuntarily softening. Our daughter was only 5 years old. When she was born, Yu Qingyan and I actually weren't so incompatible anymore. Her arrival greatly eased the relationship between us. During that time, I would go out to court in the morning, and when I came back in the afternoon, I would casually bring Yu Qingyan some hairpins and jewelry. Back then, she treasured Juer like the apple of her eye. Even when going out to inspect the shops, she would keep her daughter close by her side. But at some point, she gradually became cold toward Juer, until she became just like how she was toward Jung-er. Our relationship as husband and wife once again became like fire and water. She cursed me with extreme viciousness, completely ignored the two children, and busied herself with her own business outside all day. I endured again and again. Until finally, our family went to Yuzhou together with Ji Ruyuan and her husband to see our teacher one last time before his death. Unexpectedly, we ran right into the barbarians attacking the city. I rushed to save Ji Ruyuan, leaving her and our daughter at the teacher's residence. From then on, we were separated by life and death. I could see her, but she couldn't see me. Yu Qingyan, you used to love Juer the most. Please get her a doctor, I pleaded. But she just stood there for a moment, then turned and walked out without hesitation. I was pulled by some force and whooshed out, only able to follow by her side. She had just reached the entrance when Kuling, the maid who always followed her, happened to come hurrying over. She tried hard to look sad, but couldn't hide the gloating in her eyes. Miss, the news isn't good. What news? Without realizing it, I moved closer to listen. But the maid said something shocking. The master is dead. I was stunned. I didn't expect it to be news of my own death. I instinctively looked at Yu Qingyan, feeling a sharp pain in my heart. 8 years as husband and wife, together since youth, though we had no real feelings for each other. But I was still worried she couldn't bear the bad news. Unexpectedly, she just froze for a moment. Then her expression returned to normal. Where is the body? Chuling's joyful voice was almost excessively obvious. In Yuzhou, old Liu, who sells sugar paintings, came up just 2 days ago. Said she had been dead for quite some time. Hastily buried by someone unknown, without even a stone tablet. This damned girl. I opened my mouth to scold her. How come I didn't know she hated me this much when I was alive? I am already dead. Was it really worth being this happy about? Although I knew the journey was long and it was chaotic outside, Yu Qingyan wouldn't go to bring me back. She had always been a shrewd woman, never one to make losing deals. I still couldn't help but feel some expectations. But the moment her cool, clear voice rang out, "Since she has already been laid to rest, don't mention this person again from now on." In an instant, I felt like I had fallen into an ice cellar. But Yu Qingyan had once loved me so openly that everyone knew. We were also childhood sweethearts, innocent and inseparable. Her father was an imperial merchant, often traveling outside, rarely coming home. When she was young, she was exceptionally spoiled. Yet she loved sneaking out to play with me. I treated her very considerately too. She didn't know back then that I was good to her all because the house my widowed mother and I lived in was bought and given to us by her father, who saw that I was clever and good at studying as a way to build good karma. For my benefactor's daughter, I accommodated her in every way. She would either complain about puddles here or that it wasn't clean enough there. Lifting her skirt high, extremely difficult to please. I couldn't tell that she loved me, but the children in the alley all laughed, saying how could a young lady like her always tag along behind me like a little shadow? She must want me to become her live-in son-in-law. I was extremely embarrassed and annoyed, and scolded her several times. Yet Yu Qingyan just looked at me with bright, shining eyes. A resistance grew in my heart after all. I was meant to study for the imperial examinations. Having a reputation as a live-in son-in-law was embarrassing, sure, but more importantly, if it became reality, I wouldn't be able to take the exams and enter officialdom. Years passed, and Mother also feared the rumors might come true. So later on, out of 10 times Yu Qingyan came looking for me. 8 times she was turned away by her. It wasn't until I was 14, when someone came from our old home in Jiangnan, that this awkward situation was finally resolved. It was my fiancé whom my grandfather had arranged when I was young, Ji Ruyuan. From a scholarly family, gentle and beautiful, she timidly looked at me and handed over a betrothal document. The handwriting was clumsy. I almost immediately concluded it was written by my grandfather himself, who could barely read and write. She said softly, "Our hometown was hit by a flood. The ancestral home was washed away. My parents couldn't afford to raise so many children, so they sent me to the capital to seek refuge with you. As she spoke, she let out a sigh of relief. The journey was so long, yet she had actually come all by herself. For a moment, I felt a pang of pity. I didn't ask any more questions and led her back home. Who would have thought that after Yu Qingyan found out, she actually came to our door and made a huge scene? She says she is your fiancé, and you just believe her. What if she is a fraud? Have you verified it? I replied patiently. She brought the marriage contract. A young lady traveled thousands of miles just to deceive a poor scholar like me? She lowered her head and mumbled. You are not just a poor scholar. I was already used to her spoiled temper and soothed her with practiced ease. Go back first. Don't make your father worry about you being out all day again. Aren't you still practicing the abacus? She stomped her foot and said willfully. Then remember to write a letter to ask. Don't you dare not take this seriously? I hastily agreed and watched her disappear from sight. When I turned around, I saw a graceful beauty standing under the peach tree in the courtyard. Tears welling in her eyes, face pale, looking as if she might collapse at any moment. Ji Ruyuan looked dazed, trembling as she tried to walk out, murmuring. I knew it. Even my parents abandoned me. How could anyone else accept me? I was extremely vexed. I knew full well she had heard everything I said just now. Just then, my mother came out from the inner room, seeing me anxiously trying to stop someone, and Ji Ruyuan stubbornly weeping. She slapped her thighs with both hands. Why are you bullying Ruyuan? Was it that Yu Qingyan who came again? I knew it. That girl is nothing but trouble. I opened my mouth to retort, not wanting my mother to slander Yu Qingyan like this. But Ji Ruyan looked confused at this moment and said, Yu Qingyan. Who is that? Is she the girl from just now? Almost at the same time, for some reason, an inexplicable feeling of guilt welled up in my heart, taking advantage of mother already coming over to persuade her. That very night, I lit a lamp and wrote a letter, sending it to Jiangnan to confirm her identity. During the half-month of waiting for news, Yu Qingyan came almost every day, holding her jade abacus, swinging her legs while sitting on the stone bench in the courtyard. Ruyan, however, settled down and helped mother with cooking, embroidery, and washing clothes. Yu Qingyan, just like before, tried to stop her several times, saying she would hire someone to take care of us. But mother kept a stern face. With a daughter-in-law helping this old woman doesn't feel tired. This place is dirty. It is better if the young miss comes less often. These words hurt her somewhat, but she still wouldn't leave, stubbornly saying, she is not your daughter-in-law yet. It only counts after things are made clear. Mother had no way of dealing with her, so she just let her be. Ji Ruyuan was even more careful, wishing she could turn herself invisible. I saw it all, but due to some inexplicable hesitation, I couldn't utter a single word. As the day for the reply drew nearer, everyone in the household became restless. Yu Qingyan was away from home every day. Even for her afternoon nap, she had servants bring her meals. Until the day the courier came for the first time. I saw Yu Qingyan's face so pale. I opened the letter. It was written in black ink on white paper, and it came from Jiang Yan. It said Ji Ruyan was my set-in-stone fiancé. She covered her face and wept, crying out mournfully. Finally, no one will call me a liar anymore. I stood frozen in place. I should have been happy. Ji Ruyuan should have been the wife I wanted. But Yu Qingyan's sorrow was overflowing. I thought she would throw a fit, would be unreasonable. When she raised her hand and moved, I instinctively turned sideways, shielding Ji Ruyuan behind me. Before I could even regret it, her eyelashes trembled, but she just pressed her lips together hard and smiled. Then I'll head back first, Lu Ning'an. I didn't try to stop her, watching her walk out, step by step. Ji Ruyuan burst into tears, throwing herself into my mother's arms. I'll wait, Auntie, I'll wait. Her words were vague and unclear. Mother could only scold me. But I was in a daze, not even knowing what she had said. From that day on, I had no news of Yu Qingyan for months. Only then did I realize that even though we were just a wall apart, Unless she came to find me, I had no chance to see her. I thought to myself, maybe it is better not to see her. This was how it should have been all along. We had both reached the age where men and women should keep their distance. Besides, the Yu family's wealth could rival a nation, while I was just a nobody living off others' charity. We shouldn't have had any relationship to begin with. Mother said that once I passed the imperial examination, she would hold a wedding ceremony for Ru Yuan and me. Those words completely woke me up. Ru Yuan is my fiancée. I must treat her well, just as father treated mother, wholeheartedly attentive to every detail. As time passed, I deliberately let the past fade, devoting myself entirely to being with Ji Ru Yuan. The silver earned from copying books part went to mother. Part became the pearl hairpin atop Ji Ru Yuan's head. As we spent more time together, I was delighted to discover that she was not only well-read in poetry and literature, but also shared my interests, and we could talk about anything. And when I saw Yu Qingyan again, half a year had already passed. The Yu family patriarch had invited a highly respected teacher from Yuzhou, a former grand secretary, to instruct the students of Jingyuan Alley. Regardless of gender, the place of instruction was none other than the Yu family's grand residence. I was hesitating, but Ji Ru Yuan said with rosy cheeks, "I've admired Grand Secretary Zhang for so long. I wonder if Sister Qingyan would mind if I went too," I said in a low voice. "She is not that petty." Ji Ru Yuan pursed her lips. I wanted to persuade her, but felt guilty doing so. What even was this? I constantly reminded myself. The Yu family's kindness could be repaid slowly, but Ru Yuan was my fiancée. I couldn't stand against her. When we arrived, the classroom was already full of people. I instinctively scanned the room, and finally in the front row, spotted a familiar figure. Yet only a back view. Ink blue silk clothes, even her back seemed much more composed now. It belatedly dawned on me that in a few more months she would come of age. Suppressing the inexplicable emotions, I began listening to the teacher's lecture. When the day's lessons ended, I suddenly stood up, about to take a few steps forward. But Yu Qingyan had already followed the crowd into the garden so large one could get lost in it, leaving only half of her thin profile. Countless people surrounded her, all dressed lavishly with distinguished appearances. Ji Ru Yuan called out to me, "Brother Ningyan, what are you looking at?" I was stunned for a long while, and replied softly, "There is a swallow outside the window. Winter is approaching, it will probably leave us soon, heading for warmer places." On the day of Yu Qingyan's hairpin ceremony, I stood before the courtyard wall for a long time, until the daylight faded, and the sound of fireworks filled the sky. Ji Ru Yuan came looking for me, carrying a lantern. She said gently, "It is getting cold. Be careful not to catch a chill." Only then did I realize my whole body was freezing cold. My lips were also ice cold, unable to utter a single word. I finally accepted that our childhood innocence had suddenly become a mere nodding acquaintance. In 3 years of the master's teaching, Ru Yuan and I never missed a single day, while Yu Qingyan only came occasionally. I heard that she had already started taking over some family business, and perhaps in less than 2 years, Father Yu would begin selecting a live-in son-in-law for her. During the conversation, someone jokingly mentioned my name, which made Ji Ru Yuan's eyes redden. I promised, "Don't listen to their nonsense. I will never let you down." In the corner of my eye, amidst the fleeting shadows, a corner of green fabric seemed to brush past the wall. Ji Ru Yuan smiled brightly, then said with annoyance, "I didn't mean to not believe you, you know. I am just frail and afraid you'd despise me. That is why I am so sensitive and suspicious." I comforted her softly. "I've never blamed you." In the blink of an eye, 3 years had passed. Compared to burying myself in studying before, now with someone to guide me, I made great progress in my learning. But my mentor was getting on in years and was about to return to Yuzhou. Before his departure, the head of the Yu family held a grand farewell banquet. Amidst the merriment between host and guests, the teacher asked, "Are you planning to take the examination this year?" I bowed and replied, "This student will do his best to try." For some reason, Ruyan beside me had her hand tremble slightly while pouring tea. I didn't pay it any mind because the teacher nodded and said, "Very well," with confidence in my heart. I was in high spirits. After drinking several cups of rice wine, I said to Ruyan, "Once I pass the examination this time, I'll come back and marry you." A year ago, since I no longer needed to bury myself in studying, I had more time to copy books and earn money. I hired servants for the household, and Mother and Ruyan were much better taken care of now. The flower ornament between her brows seemed to tremble slightly. Yet her lips answered, "That is wonderful." But when I woke up, my world had nearly collapsed. Yu Qingyan and I were disheveled, tightly embraced together. In the courtyard was my mother's heart-wrenching cries. I was completely bewildered, my head splitting with pain. Looking at the person still fast asleep beside me, I thought it was a dream. How could I have such a beastly dream? When I followed the sound, got dressed and staggered to the courtyard, I was startled awake by the crowd filling the yard. I saw Mother kneeling on the ground, kowtowing while crying and pleading, "Master Yu, please understand. Our Ningen already has a fiancé, and his whole heart is set on that child Ruyan. Everyone in this alley knows this. They've always been inseparable. How could he possibly do such a shameful thing as coveting your precious daughter? Our Ningen's imperial examination is approaching. We only hope Master will be merciful." But then, a teacup shattered from the head seat. Utterly absurd. "Are you saying my daughter drugged your son and dragged him into the backyard?" I looked over. It was Yu Qingyan's father. Mother retorted in a low voice, "I wouldn't dare think that." Master Yu laughed in extreme anger, repeating "invited a wolf into the house" several times. Only then did he notice me, standing there as if I'd lost my soul. He stood up, raised his fist, and was about to rush over to hit me. Mother hurriedly grabbed onto his legs, crying even louder. "Master Yu, my son will take responsibility. He is so good at his studies. Sooner or later he'll earn an official title. You know this. Please, please spare his life." In the end, he didn't hit me, but said hatefully, "If it weren't for my daughter's past acquaintance with you, even if I were immediately sent to the magistrate, I would still take your life." I stood among the crowd, the murmurs around me gradually becoming distant. As the world spun around me, I suddenly asked, "Where is Ruyan?" When old Master Yu heard this, he flew into a rage and charged at me again to hit me. I took a punch without dodging, yet still staggered through the crowd and ran out. I found her by the river. By then, she had already taken off her shoes and was walking into the river, her soft, broken sobs scattering in the night wind, utterly desolate. Overwhelming guilt engulfed me. A young girl like her, traveling alone to the capital to find her fiancé. Only to end up like this. I hated myself, but I truly couldn't remember how any of this had happened. I rushed up and grabbed her, letting her cry while she punched and kicked me. In the end, we were both exhausted. I hung my head, not daring to look at her. "Ruyan, I am no longer worthy of you." In the dead silence, I promised, "But I'll be good to you for the rest of my life, like a real little sister." In the end, she still nodded through her tears. Yet I didn't feel much better inside. Even as I muddled through and married Yu Qingyan, I remained dejected. I didn't know how to face her. Together with me, she had betrayed Ji Ruyan. Moreover, it happened at her family's residence that day, so I couldn't help but be suspicious of her. That barrier in my heart always made me hold something against her. Not long after, I passed the Shusai examination. After that, the Jurin examination. I kept my promise. Most of the silver I earned went to Ruyan, and I bought her a separate house. Meanwhile, Yu Qingyan became pregnant from that one night. Seeing how well I treated Ruyan, she actually made a huge scene with me. "You don't deserve to be a father." In my panic, I blurted out, "He shouldn't have come in the first place." The moment those words left my mouth, we both froze. But spilled water cannot be gathered back. No matter how much I apologized, Yu Qingyan had already taken those words to heart. After the child was born, she neither looked at him nor took care of him. Instead, She threw herself even more into her business. When Zheng'er was little, he was an extremely difficult child to care for. The moment you stopped holding him, he would wail, unable to be apart from someone for even a second. I had to prepare for exams, but caring for him at the same time made it impossible to study properly. Mother was getting on in years, and I didn't feel at ease with wet nurses hired from outside. That is when Ruyan couldn't stand watching anymore and offered to help take care of the child. She was an unmarried young lady, so I originally didn't agree. But Zheng'er liked her too, so we just left it at that for now. Several times when Yu Qingyan came back, she would watch from afar, me sitting aside reading, Ruyan holding the child in the courtyard without saying a word. I would stand up to call out to her, but she would just turn and leave. Later, she stayed at the Yu family mansion even more frequently. Mother complained. It is not like you married into her family. Are they really expecting you to go live with her there? I said in a low voice. Mother, stop speaking ill of her in front of me. Mother choked on her words but still closed her mouth. By the time I finally finished my exams, I had also thought things through. Things have come to this. We're already husband and wife. From now on, are we really going to keep living so coldly? Last time she came because she had been running around right after giving birth. She had lost a lot of weight. Before I could ask, she turned and left. But although she didn't personally take care of Zheng'er, she arranged everything properly: food, clothing, shelter, and transportation. Summonon, who was never good at needlework, even embroidered a little pouch for the child. At night, when I slept with Zheng'er, looking at those crooked stitches, I suddenly thought of the past. We had harmonious times too, perhaps. She had once been fond of me. The day I went to her door carrying a thorn branch to plead guilty, it was a sunny day. When I entered the residence, I discovered that my father-in-law had been bedridden for a long time. I turned my head in shock to look at Yu Qingyan standing to the side. I saw undried tear stains on her face. My father-in-law was exhaling more than inhaling. Yet when he saw me, he widened his eyes. I hurriedly knelt on the ground and leaned down to listen. He said, "If you dare treat my daughter badly, I won't let you off even as a ghost." Yu Qingyan finally couldn't hold back and burst into loud sobs. My father-in-law, trembling, raised his hand to take the cane I offered up, and weakly whipped me twice. I felt immensely guilty. It turned out that during this time Yu Qingyan wasn't sulking, but was taking care of the business her father left behind every day, and still had to return to the residence at night to keep him company. This son-in-law of mine not only didn't come to fulfill his filial duties, but also got into a fight with his daughter. Finally, with my comforting, my wife leaned into my embrace for the first time. I froze in disbelief. Then with trembling hands I wrapped my arms around her. Not long after, with me and Yu Qingyan by his side, my father-in-law passed away. And I passed the imperial examination as a jinshi. From that day on, Yu Qingyan's relationship with me eased considerably. It is just that when she returned to the manor wanting to hold Zheng'er, she looked somewhat sad when she noticed Zheng'er avoided her hand. I comforted her. The child is still young, it'll be better when he is older. During this time we had Zhu'er. This time without being caught off guard we were both overjoyed. Vaguely, I glimpsed the happiness that I once didn't dare to long for yet secretly longed for during midnight dreams. Originally, all of this was within reach. But when Zhu'er was half a year old, Yu Qingyan suddenly told me she had found out who drugged us that night. But the very next day after she took me to see that person, Ji Ruyuan brought that person to our door. She shyly lowered her head. "Brother Ning'an, I have someone I am fond of." My mind was in chaos, with Yu Qingyan's expectant eyes mixed with unease, and also Ji Ruyuan's tears. In the end, I asked expressionlessly, "Where is he from?" The man answered, "From the northwest, served in the army before, discharged due to injury and illness." I closed my eyes briefly, and continued to ask, "When did you come to the capital?" Ji Ruyuan rushed to answer, "I just came a few days ago. I was nearly run over by a horse on the streets in the west of the city. It was young Master Ying who saved me." I breathed a sigh of relief and had them leave first. At that time, I had already been appointed to the 5th rank, with a considerable salary. In the evening, I looked at Yu Qingyan with disappointment. I heard you recently opened a new shop in the west of the city. Under my scrutiny, she couldn't help but tremble in her hands and feet at first. Later, as if giving up on herself, her face became utterly lifeless. Just think of me as being jealous and resentful of Ji Ruyuan. I was about to say something more, for example. I would treat you well for a lifetime. You don't need to dwell on the past. But she didn't give me the chance, sneering. The bond between childhood sweethearts. How laughable. Our relationship fell back to the freezing point once again. The several times she witnessed Ji Ruyuan coming to our home. At first, she smashed everything in the bedroom, the jewelry I had given her. I told her that we were the ones who wronged Ruyuan first. This is just compensation now, but she wouldn't listen. While cursing us as a shameless couple, she raised her sword to strike. At the critical moment, it was 4-year-old Zheng who stepped forward, blocking the screaming Ji Ruyuan. You really aren't like other people's mothers, he said loudly. My sister and I would rather be Auntie Ruyuan's children than yours. You are a merchant, and Auntie Ruyuan is a talented lady. Everyone knows that. I harshly scolded Zheng. Who taught you all this? Your mother is an excellent person. Yes, indeed. The moment the words left my mouth, even I was stunned for a moment. Yu Qingyan is such a wonderful person. How could we have forgotten? At first, it was she who found my mother and me, dressed in thin clothes, unable to afford charcoal, living in a rundown courtyard with drafts everywhere. Later, after Master Yu learned of this, he generously waved his hand, bought us a house, and gave us enough silver to live on. She also often came to play with me, so others didn't dare to truly bully me. Back then, I was so eager to repay my debts, so eager to make something of myself, that I was terrified of being associated with her in any way. Worried I'd become a live-in son-in-law who couldn't take the imperial examinations. But I never once asked, what did she actually think? Later, after I had a fiancé, I had even less opportunity to ask her, but it was too late. I watched with my own eyes as the overwhelming anger in her eyes visibly disappeared, finally turning into calm, waveless indifference. Fine, she said. As you wish. I rushed over and embraced her, letting the sword tip tear through the hem of my clothes. It is my fault for failing to teach my son properly. Don't be angry, Qingyan. But she didn't listen to my explanation. From then on, she wasn't even that close to Juer anymore. From that point on, we were husband and wife in name only. Even after Ji Ruyuan had married off and no longer returned to the Lu family, she never grew close to the three of us father and sons again. She accepted all the jewelry and gems we sent over. But before long, they would appear in her jewelry shop, sold at a discount. Until we returned to Yuzhou together. I originally wanted to ask my teacher to help mediate. I'll treat her well from now on. But before I had the chance, the barbarians invaded Yuzhou. Teacher died from shock and rage. The secluded villa where teacher lived in seclusion was in a remote and hidden corner of the city, originally safer. But Ji Ruyuan's maidservant came covered in blood to deliver a message, saying her mistress had encountered danger on her way back from seeking talismans for teacher. Before I ran out, Yu Qingyan asked, "You can't not go, can you?" I said resolutely. "Just this once, after this, we'll be even." But once I left, I never came back alive. After the maidservant finished delivering the message, she went to rest. Yu Qingyan stood in the courtyard for a long time. When she came back to her senses, she finally noticed a child standing under the corridor pillar. It was Zheng. He silently shed tears and asked, "Is Daddy never coming back?" During the months of fleeing, at first he still spoke harsh words to Yu Qingyan, saying once Daddy came back, he wouldn't want to stay with her anymore. Later, fear and exhaustion made him gradually depend on his mother. But Yu Qingyan, from beginning to end, gave him the same things. Protecting his safety, giving him food and clothing, looking after his daily needs. But, when he was drowsy and tried to lean into her arms, she quietly pushed him away. Zheng cried and threw tantrums, but in the end found that Yu Qingyan didn't fall for that. Even when I was pacing anxiously beside them, she still wore that cold expression. When Zheng was crying so hard her whole body trembled. She just stopped, crying. I need to go take care of things. The messages coming one after another made my heart ache. I hurriedly asked, "Are you not going to look after him anymore?" I forgot again. She couldn't hear me. Never had I realized so clearly as in this moment that she doesn't love our child. A chill ran through my entire body. At first, I didn't understand why Yu Qingyan planted so many trees and grass. But within 2 months, those trees grew rapidly, dense and thick, tightly encircling the villa in the center. The grass seeds that were scattered also took root and sprouted, climbing upward around the trees. They were actually thorns. I vaguely sensed she had ulterior motives, until the arrival of a certain person further confirmed my judgment. It was that political rival I utterly despised. Ji Qinshi. So young, yet already appointed as junior minister of the Court of Judicial Review, arrogant and conceited. He once mocked me coldly on the street. To serve in the same court as someone like you is our great misfortune. His followers laughed loudly beside him. I've always despised such arrogant sons of noble families and immediately cupped my hands wanting to leave. He, however, persisted, saying, "Tell me, everyone, according to our country's laws, what crime is it to have an affair with someone's wife?" I flew into a rage and retorted angrily, "Lady Ying and I share a bond like siblings. Lord Ji, it is one thing for us to have different political views, but to slander an innocent woman out of resentment, is that the conduct of a gentleman?" The people beside him exchanged glances upon hearing this. The next moment they all burst into laughter. I was so angry my fingers trembled, yet I could only turn and leave in fury. Such petty scoundrels. Yu Qingyan had clearly said this would be our retirement home in the future. Though after our relationship soured, she never mentioned it again. But how could she let others come here? But the next moment, Ji Qinshi slightly stepped aside. A physician walked in. My grief and indignation immediately got stuck. He came to bring a physician for Juer. With mixed feelings, I watched him walk into the courtyard alongside Yu Qingyan, entering the dazed Juer's room and beginning to examine her. I stared at Yu Qingyan's cold profile and the green robes she'd worn day after day for 10 years. Before I could form any heavy thoughts, Ji Qinshi wiped the amused look off his face and became solemn. "The barbarians are already at the city gates. Qingyan, your judgment was correct." Yu Qingyan nodded. "Stay here at ease, no other living person knows about this place." I couldn't help but feel a sourness in my heart. Is my death that easy to brush off? While stewing in that bitterness, I suddenly remembered someone I hadn't thought of these past few days. Ji Ruyuan. If she is still alive, then she knows about this place too. An overwhelming guilt engulfed me. I couldn't help but move closer, knowing full well I couldn't touch Yu Qingyan. Yet I still deceived myself, making the gesture of embracing her. "Nothing will happen, Ruyan isn't that kind of person, Qingyan, you'll be safe." But I was wrong. The day the barbarians broke through to the doorstep, Juer spoke her first words since being frightened. "Auntie Yuan is here." Yu Qingyan froze, then said in disbelief, "Who?" Before Juer could speak again, outside the open door, Ji Ruyuan burst in with disheveled clothes and a panicked face, and her husband Ying Shuang with a severed arm, holding up his bleeding stump and wailing in agony. Ji Ruyuan showed a harsh expression I had never seen before, pressing aggressively. "No wonder you didn't want to live in the city, so you knew all along the barbarians would invade, yet you didn't warn me. Yu Qingyan, how heartless of you." Yu Qingyan's face went blank for a few seconds. She didn't argue with her, but instead urgently gathered people, grabbed a sword herself, and hurried to the doorway. Ji Qinshi followed closely behind. I was extremely anxious, but could only watch helplessly as all of this unfolded. Yu Qingyan used the combat technique she had learned in Yuzhou, sword stroke by sword stroke, cutting down those who tried to climb over the thorns. Ji Ruyuan had come in through the tunnel. I was completely consumed by regret. It was me. I was the one who put my wife and children in this situation. Back when Ji Ruyuan and Ying Shuang first got married, they had once had a quarrel. Ji Ruyuan ran away from home in a fit of anger. When I found her in the outskirts of the capital, it was pouring rain. Left with no choice, I had to bring her back here to take shelter from the rain. I never imagined that not only was she alive, but knowing full well the danger, she still led the barbarians here. At this very moment, I silently prayed that she had properly closed the tunnel when she came. Fortunately, she really wasn't that stupid. There weren't actually many barbarians in pursuit. Under Ji Qinshi's command, those servants who were obviously skilled in martial arts quickly wiped them out. A hint of confusion appeared on Yu Qingyan's face as she murmured softly, "What did I do wrong?" My heart ached like hell. I wanted to say you didn't do anything wrong. It was me. I was the one who was wrong. I shouldn't have attended the banquet to receive my teacher's recognition just to satisfy my secret desire to show off. So you would know I wouldn't always be a nobody. I also shouldn't have neglected you and distanced myself from you after we got married. Even if you were biased against Ruyuan, I shouldn't have refused to listen to you without understanding the full picture. But now, I am a ghost. I could only watch helplessly as Ji Qinshi carefully, with the hand that wasn't stained with blood, pulled her into his embrace. I was going mad with jealousy, and I so wanted to ask, when did they become involved with each other? There was nothing I could do. She couldn't see me, couldn't hear me, and even after my death, she still hated me. Yet Ji Ruyuan just had to add insult to injury after being ordered to be taken away. She laughed maniacally. I should have died long ago anyway. Living all those extra years, I am perfectly content. I fell into immense confusion, gradually unable to understand what on earth they were talking about. Yes, you figured it out long ago. I am not Lu Ning'an's fiancé, and both letters were forged. But what good does that do, Yu Qingyan? He hates you just like his dead mother did, avoiding you like the plague. Anyone else in his place would have anxiously accepted me too. So in the end, he won't even hear you out on the truth. He'll only assume you are making things up because you resent me. Yu Qingyan's expression remained calm, but I had already realized, my chest aching with a sinking pain, wishing I could strangle her to death. No, that is not true. I never avoided her. But another voice was questioning me. Did you really not, Lu Ning'an? You did. You were proud, arrogant. Facing the radiant and beautiful Yu Qingyan, your heart stirred while you kept reminding yourself, she is your benefactor's daughter. Their family, blessed by imperial favor, would never marry her off to an unknown nobody like you with an uncertain future. And you, to support your household and be filial to your mother, could never marry into their family either. All of this was wrong. You couldn't help but treat her well, yet couldn't help but push her away. The closer she got to her coming-of-age ceremony, the more you feared the day of reckoning would arrive. When Ji Ruyuan appeared, you effortlessly found a reason to distance yourself from her. How righteous, how upstanding, and how hypocritical. Ji Qinshi was right. You, Lu Ning'an, are exactly such a shameless scoundrel. Ji Ruyuan was still going crazy. Yes, I've been secretly involved with Ying Shuang all along. He was originally a wandering rogue. After we eloped, he took me back to his hometown and recognized Lu Ning'an as a scholar he had once stolen from. But I had no way back. I was just a concubine-born daughter waiting to be sold off. In my father's backyard, there were dozens of daughters like me, waiting to be sent to the backyards of court officials in their 70s and 80s. It was Ying Shuang who saved me. He took me with him, evading my father's pursuit all the way, and got hurt many times. He said Lu Ning'an was a self-righteous fool. He truly was a fool. Her voice grew lower and lower. Yu Qingyan, I really never thought of marrying him. I just wanted to escape disaster and have food and shelter. So in the end, I gave him back to you. She suddenly raised her face and pleaded. You can take my life, but for the sake of me returning Lu Ning'an to you, could you save Ying Shuang? I am begging you. Yu Qingyan stood quietly. After a long while, in the dead silence, she gazed into the void, her eyes hollow and empty. Then do you know? The night you sent Ying Shuang to drug me, I already had a good man I was courting. My whole body went stiff as I stared at her numbly. Yet, I only saw her face full of seriousness, without the slightest sign of lying. Originally, I should have had a husband who only had me in his heart, loving and respecting each other, sharing the same interests, walking hand in hand through life. All of this was ruined by you, she said softly. So, why do you think Lu Ning'an died? I gradually couldn't sense my own existence. I wished I could just disappear completely right then and there. But I still heard her say those words. That maid was someone I placed by your side back then to find out your background. Even after escaping back, she had to read my expression to know whether or not she should say anything. He chose the path to death himself. Ji Ruyuan, I didn't do anything wrong. I once wanted to forget everything and live well with Lu Ning'an. But you wouldn't let me go, afraid that he'd be completely won over by me, and then you'd lose any chance to continue your wealthy lives. Lu Ning'an abandoned us, mother and 2 children, and chose you, so he deserved to die. I won't spend the rest of my life with such a person. Ji Ruyuan suddenly broke down crying again. Why, you already have everything. I just wanted a way to survive, just a way to survive, that is all. Lu Ning'an gave you most of his family fortune as your dowry. You've had a way to survive long ago. She turned a deaf ear, then suddenly thought of something, and under my already numb gaze, pointed her finger at Ji Qinshi, who was standing behind Yu Qingyan. He is not just your benefactor who saved you in Yuzhou, right? No one responded. She cried and laughed. No wonder he rushed to Yuzhou overnight to save you as soon as he got the news. Does Lu Ning'an know that the political enemy who has been tripping him up in the officialdom was once your fiancé? You were going to marry. Yu Qingyan crouched down, showing the first smile of the day. I was raised as an heir since childhood. Ji Ruyuan. Lu Ning'an has been entangled with you for 3 years. So should I act like an abandoned bitter woman, wallowing in self-pity, mourning like I am observing a funeral for 3 years for you two? There are plenty of fine men in this world. At this point, I finally slumped to the ground. I watched as the servants hoisted up the tightly bound Ji Ruyuan and Ying Shuang and threw them outside the wall. I heard Yu Qingyan say to Ji Qinshi, "Let's go. I have other villas, far from here, more secluded." I murmured to myself, Qingyan. So heaven had already given me my punishment long ago. After the falling out, I was the one who couldn't let go. I was the one acting recklessly, and I was the one who thought myself noble. Yu Qingyan had already moved on long ago. She was merely trapped in this marriage by worldly conventions and old feelings. And I forever trapped in the day she turned and left the Lu family. All the relief I felt that day has now become the knife stabbing into me. Ji Qinshi had waited for her for so long. From now on, they'll be together, won't they? My body gradually became transparent. My soul gradually floated into midair. In the fleeting lights and shadows like a whirlwind tour, I saw the barbarians driven out of the capital. Driven out of Dayue. A new emperor ascended the throne. Yu Qingyan never married her whole life, raising the 2 children to adulthood. Zheng and Zhu still never received her affection. To her, of these 2 children, one was forced upon her to keep. The other had long since betrayed her. Even so, both children still adored her deeply. Under the renowned reputation of their mother, who as a woman became an imperial merchant once again in the new dynasty, they lived a life of wealth and glory, yet rarely got to see their mother. She never remarried, but she had someone she loved. Ji Qinshi had been seriously injured years ago when he went to Yuzhou to save her, and had already resigned from his post, living in her villa to recuperate. It was he who refused to marry, unwilling to burden her with his broken body. In the end, they departed happily. At the same time, a white light engulfed me. When I woke again, I was holding up a wine cup, about to toast my teacher at the farewell banquet, but I only heard Master Yu at the head seat say, "Today, with all of Qingyan's teachers and fellow disciples present, I shall announce some happy news. My daughter Qingyan has been engaged for quite some time now." The 15th of this month is the auspicious day. Everyone present must come drink to her wedding. The wine in my hand suddenly fell onto the table, but the sound it made was completely drowned out by the crowd's cheers. I knew then that Yu Qingyan, who had long been disappointed in me, had also returned. For all eternity, I no longer had the right to be near her. Get lost, Ji Ruyan. If you leave now, I'll spare your life. After years as an official, my tone was stern enough. Ji Ruyuan still wanted to keep acting. I parted my lips slightly and uttered Ying Shuang's name. She practically scrambled out of the banquet, stumbling and crawling. I was led around by the nose by such a fool for half my life. I looked toward Yu Qingyan's serene and gentle face among the crowd. This lifetime, let me be the one to atone for my sins. I won't take the imperial examinations anymore. I am going to enlist in the army, guard the borders for her, and drive back the barbarians. From then on, I slept in wind and sand, spending half my life on horseback in war. Before I died in battle, I heard she had a child. How wonderful. At least she never got tangled up with someone like me again.